So we just talked about how to start to uncover our needs. But Tat, what do you think are the major reasons or obstacles to not knowing what one's needs are?
Well, my favorite answer is that, people sort of like prevented from understanding or engaging or being in touch with their needs, not as a result of their personal shortcomings, but as more like a learned habit. So how do we learn this habit of not getting in touch with what we need? So you can think of it, it's like, when a newborn baby needs something, right? The baby doesn't even have the language to tell you, like, I need milk, or change my nappy, or hold me, right? The baby at least would cry, and then they will leave to the parent to figure out what the baby's needs are. And as the baby grows, during early childhood, many of us would be quite capable of at least expressing what we want, if not what we need. Like, so I see that, like, teddy bear in the shop, or I wanted an ice cream. We're quite capable of communicating that. But we understand that, like, as we grow up, very often people experience different responses to your expression of needs. Very often you have adults telling you, no, like, this is not for you. And sometimes, depending on how the adults are treating you, you may even be made to feel bad about wanting something, because they may communicate, sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, that, like, you should not even want this, and even saying this or expressing this is wrong. So I can give you a very common example. Like, one of the things that you can not express as your need would be your sexual needs, right? Expressing your sexual needs is, like, routinely discouraged in some cultures. It is like suppressed or punished. Even in, like, so-called progressive open societies like Canada, Toronto, like, you still have a lot of people being punished for expressing their sexual needs, right, from very early on in life. So that is just one example. And then there are, like, different cultural conventions for expressing the wish for good food, physical comfort, company, or, like, exciting sensory stimulation, like playing video games, or like high impact sports, right? So we have, like, different conventions, right? Certain things are encouraged, certain needs are suppressed or regulated, right? So, and I just want to give you an example, because I teach in the university. To me, right, the opportunity to seek knowledge, to read, to be exposed to new information and new ideas are the most valuable and most gratifying things in life. And you would say that, well, you know what, but, like, isn't it true that people are encouraged to do that all through their lives in most cultures? Well, fact actually is not. And this is why a lot of people have lost interest, and a lot of people have negative association with this. People might be curious and they want to learn, and they ask a lot of questions, but you also see how sometimes curiosity is punished. You can also see that, like, yes, you want to learn, but you have to learn in a certain way. And if you want to learn in your own way, then it is being discouraged. Right? You should read this book and not those, right? You should attend these classes and not those, right? You should do this instead of that. So your learning is highly regulated. And as a result, you do not always have a positive experience. And plus, like, when you're learning, people are not rewarding you for, learning the stuff, for not rewarding you for the process itself and not rewarding you for just like being able to learn something. You are only rewarded when you learn according to the way they describe, and you are able to show them, right? In terms of grades, right, examination scores, right, that you have learned what they want you to learn. And that can become a very negative experience for a lot of people. So I'm just using that, like, the need for information, the need for knowledge, as an example. Like, I'm just lucky that I had sort of like more positive experience than negative experience when I was growing up. But I can easily imagine there are other people who might start with the same level of curiosity and interest that I had, who unfortunately were like often punished and discouraged or restricted. So that takes me to a very important concept, right, in SSLD. It's not only important in SSLD, it's actually important for anyone living within a social reality. That is my idea of social scripts. So what is a social script? A social script is a script that is created by the community that you're living in, like, it's social in nature, and that it is shared, and it is socially created and socially enforced. So in some cultures, for example, if you're female, then you're not supposed to get an education. You're not supposed to be smarter than the boys, and you're not supposed to express your interest in being a leader, or your interest in like solving problems, or like creating things. You actually might get punished for that, right? So imagine like all of us going through different social scripts. The requirement is for us to seek gratification of our needs according to prescribed methods, prescribed procedures. If those procedures do not work for you, right, or those procedures are inherently unfair, or those procedures are inherently contradictory to your natural surroundings, you would not have a good experience. And if you try to fight that and you're not successful and you got like punished and you have very bad experience, many of us would learn to just conform to those scripts, and then we stop asking ourselves what our needs are. We are actually encouraged to suppress our needs and just follow the rules. So if you have been in this kind of situation for too long, it is like, not surprising that you have no clear idea of what your needs might even be, because like, what have I been doing? I have been like living a life according to a script that is not written by myself, but like created by someone else who are enforcing the script, and I just have to play a particular role, be a particular character that was created by people, and it's not even me. So when you get to that stage and you're looking back and looking, all right, what have I done? You have not actually lived life as yourself. You have not been authoring your own script, right? And in that kind of situation, I would say, not knowing what your needs are is quite understandable. So, and so to me, like when I talk to people who are sort of like feeling lost and confused and whatever, and one of the things I always looked at is like, what life scripts have they followed, right? And getting them to reflect on this, right? So you did this, right? So why did you do that? Well, I don't know, like, my family moved here, I follow my family, right? So why did you start working in that factory? Or I don't know, all girls, like half of the girls in my village work in that factory. So when you live a life like that, right? When you live a life like that, like you won't be like particularly capable of like telling yourself like what your needs are. But I see a very important opportunity, right, in this. Like when people are coming to us, or when people are telling themselves, I feel trapped, I feel resentful, I don't like what I'm going through, I do not like what I have. That is a very good starting point. That is a golden opportunity, because when you say you feel trapped, that means you want to be somewhere else, right? If you say that I'm resentful, then that means you do not like what you're having, you want something else, right? And if we can follow that and move into like what you think, right, is where you want to go, right? What you think will be a better situation for yourself, what will make you feel less resentful, right? That is already a good starting point, right? But I also want to say something about social scripts because they're so powerful, right? That is why a lot of people are following it. You understand that, like, when you deviate from prescribed social scripts, depending on the culture and society, right? You may be punished, you may be ostracized, you may be like excluded from a lot of things, you may be deprived of like many valuable life chances, like access to resources and services. And for some people, you simply do not want to risk being proven wrong, because the majority of people are standing on the other side of the argument. So I think it is important for us to recognize that. And we do not want to judge people who follow social scripts. They are not people who are weak. They are not people who are worse or inferior people, because like using the same SSLD analysis, we can come to a sort of more compassionate engagement with people who are following life scripts. Because how we look at it is that following life scripts also meets some of our needs as human beings, right? For a lot of us, like following a script that people have already created for you will satisfy your need for order. So things becomes orderly, coherent, meaningful, right? And to some extent, predictable, right? And you have a sense of control, which may be illusory, but like you have a sense of prediction and control over what is happening if everyone follows the same script, right? And this is why, like in many parts of the world, when you look at people who adhere to like conservative politics, not all of them, some of these people feel very disturbed when the sense of order or their sense of order is disturbed, because actually every one of us needs to maintain a sense of order. It's just that some of us, because of like our being luckier, or we have like exposure to alternate ways of doing things, we do not necessarily have to adhere to one order. But to a lot of people, that is the only order they know of. And anything that is different will be seen as like threatening, dangerous. So that is like one strong motivation for adhering to even very rigid social scripts. The other thing about social script is that, like, when you're adhering to a social script, you feel that you're included in a community because there are people who are doing the same thing, right, like you are. And when you are there, then you will also be experiencing or rewarded for your compliance by having like affiliation to people who think alike, who act alike, live alike, and then you will also be experiencing social acceptance and approval, and your sense of membership and belonging to a community will not be threatened. So there are like good reasons, right, for people to want to follow social scripts. But what I'm trying to say, like with all this, is that, well, being aware that there is a script that you're following is your first step towards liberation. And if you allow yourself to rethink what your personal needs are and whether adhering to a particular social script will adequately meet your needs, is a good starting point, right? For you to think of how to reorganize your life. Don't get me wrong. We're not saying that like everyone should like just like deviate from all the social scripts. First of all, it is not even doable. Like when I'm here producing this video, right, talking to people, I'm following a particular script for how academics and professionals talk, right? So no one can be completely freed from all the social scripts. But if we allow ourselves to become one, aware of like what are the scripts that we're following and why, and two, we understand that there are actually multiple scripts that we can choose from. Three, if you look at all the multiple scripts you can choose from, you know that you can actually take bits and pieces from these different scripts and re-author your own, right? You write your own script. That is sort of like more compatible or commensurate with your own set of needs. Um, you have a better chance of like living a more fulfilling life. But like I just want to point out that you know, if you do not question, right, the scripts that you're following, you have a higher chance of, you know, just like going along with the crowd, not understanding what your needs are, and like living a life that turned out to be, you know, not really driven by your genuine needs as a human being. So that I think is like why I want to highlight that as one of the major challenges or obstacles to one's ability or one's being able to stay connected and be like clearly aware of what one's needs might be.